Sorry about that, guys. I had to do that real quick. I have an old laptop and I'm running out of space, so I had to delete a bunch of shit. And there's some things I don't want to get rid of. It, it has sentimental value, you know. There's a lot of things that's on my laptop that my daughter and her mother and I put had pictures, videos from from a wedding and the aftermath, pictures from during her pregnancy, newborn baby pictures. Like I said, I've seen pictures, I've seen videos of my daughter, but I haven't been there for my daughter. I haven't had the chance to be there. I miss her entrance into the world, you know. If anyone in my family could ever relate this to you, baby girl, I don't think they can clearly relate it how I went through it in my mind, in my head. I'm a logical, mental person, so that's who your dad is, you know what I mean? And it was probably the worst day in my life when I was trying to leave to go to Sierra Leone to be there for your eventual birth on July the 27th of 2014, that I couldn't. I couldn't go there because of U.S. immigration policy. That was neither here nor there, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that part right there. But that day right there in my life, like, I cried at least 2 or 3 times that day, you know what I mean? I had conversations with about 3 or 4 people who literally made me realize that, okay, maybe I shouldn't really shed tears over something like that. Yes, I will be missing it, but it's okay. She's gonna be healthy, she's gonna be just fine, you know. But that's neither here nor there though. Legal privilege. This is from Trump's tweet on April 10th of this year. That was a nice, simple little tweet. He says attorney-client privilege is dead. No all caps in there. That was simple, you know what I mean? I think somebody's finally getting to a way. He has to control his rhetoric now. Someone's teaching him how to spell, how to use complete sentences with syntax, you know. And the reality check is that this tweet comes shortly after the FBI raided the offices of Michael Cohen, the president's personal lawyer. The raid last month stems from special counsel Robert S. Mueller III's ongoing investigation into possible collusion between the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, and Russians in the 2016 presidential election. Of course, attorney-client privilege still exists, and Trump certainly knows so. It allows clients who have a legal problem to talk candidly with a lawyer. However, there are limitations. The crime-fraud exception. If you're a criminal committing fraud, oh shit, I had some on my head. Oh no, that's just a bald spot. Oh shit. The crime-fraud exception. Note that if a person is using the attorney-client relationship to perpetuate a crime, there is no privilege. So, paying off Stormy Daniels doesn't fall under attorney-client privilege. Meeting with Russians and telling them to do anything they can to undermine the legitimacy of the Obama administration that's going to be replaced and Hillary Clinton's continuation of such Obama-era policies. Meeting with Russians and Ukrainians to talk about things like that is collusion. You racist rednecks, just because you want to replace a black man in a presidential office with any buffoon of buffoons, with the biggest callywag of a nincompoop, just because you want to put him in that position, got in bed with America's biggest, greatest enemy, namely the Russians. The Russians have always been America's biggest, baddest enemy. And if the Russian knows one thing, is that the black man is America's original boogeyman. If you think I'm wrong, Go check out this season of The Americans when Derek Luke was on there when he played Gregory. Just listen to how the Russians used the black man to further their cause in America. That was in the 80s. So, you have a right to talk in confidence with your attorney about criminal activity, but you cannot use your attorney to accomplish a crime. David Cole, legal director for the ACLU, recently wrote on the group's website. A mobster suspected of engaging in bribery can consult his attorney about the facts of his alleged bribery, without fear that the attorney will disclose those communications. But he has no right to have the lawyer deliver the bribe for him. So, Mr. Cole, what he's pretty much saying with his whole mobster analogy, like Kanye said, even the mob cannot make him not like his brother Trump. It's so funny that they talk about mobsters, you know, and like, this guy's administration is like a fucking mob syndicate. Just less organized and without a sense of direction. So pretty much what he's saying is that a mobster suspected of engaging in bribery can consult his attorney about the facts of his alleged bribery without fear that the attorney would disclose those communications. So when Trump came to Michael Cohen to bribe Stormy Daniels to not say nothing, to corroborate his old pussy-grabbing comments. Yo, Stormy, did he try to do that to you? What would you do? Slap his hand away? And he like that even more, huh? That turned him on, huh? Did it turn him on when you told him that he was a bad boy, that mommy gonna spank him? Did that turn him on? It didn't? I thought he had mommy issues. That's probably why he hates women so much. I thought he did. But he has no right to have the lawyer deliver the bribe for him. Come on, Mikey. You knew that. Maybe that dumbass little law school you went to didn't teach you that. Or maybe that you skipped school that day. The fuck out of here. Dhaka. April the 2nd, Trump wrote, Dhaka is dead because the Democrats did not care or act. And now everyone wants to get onto the Dhaka bandwagon. No longer works. Must build wall and secure our borders with proper border legislation. Democrats want no borders, hence drugs and crime. That's like Cold War to the ultimate degree, yo. Democrats want no borders, hence drugs and crime. And I mean, like, he's speaking to his voting base. You gotta admire the racists in this guy for. Like, this guy is fully tapped into his racism. He's fully tapped in. You gotta admire that. Like some great woman said a long time ago, I might not agree with what you say, but I would defend to the death your right to say what you have to say or what you feel like you need to say. Like, I get it. Like, people think right now, I'm trying to tell you, if Trump says let's have a meeting, I will have a meeting with him. But my only stipulation is this, Donnie. We gotta have a camera there live. I don't want nothing edited before or after. I don't want a Russian translator there. I don't want none of that. Just me, you, and the camera, and whoever else you feel like you need to have there. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that there's nothing lost in translation in what I have to say or what you have to respond, or what you have to say or what I have to respond. I know it sounds far-fetched, but I have an idea of the kind of baseless human character that I'm referring to when I refer to this President of the United States as such a baseless human waste of fresh air. But yeah. You know what? I just thought about something too. I have to point out and stress out. I am not a DACA recipient. I came to the United States legally. Legally, Legally, not illegally, not ILL, no, not IL in front of that. Legally, I am a legal immigrant who emigrated here with an E in December of 1998 with a green card, a permanent residency card for those who don't understand. Yes, not a citizen, not yet. That thought never crossed my mind. Like that Modelo Especial commercial say, they stopped showing that commercial after Trump won the election. They're like, nah, we can't be getting our businessman in chief mad. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there though. Still, I have to stress out, that's not what this is about. That's not why. This is just in the papers and I'm reading it. In September, Trump ordered. Now, here's the reality check. In September, Trump ordered an end to deferred action for childhood arrivals, an Obama-era program that prevents deportation of young immigrants who were brought to the country illegally as children. He called on Congress to act by a March deadline, but no legislation came about. Even so, immigrant rights groups have filed a barrage of lawsuits to keep the program operating. To date, three federal judges have ruled against the administration's efforts to end the program. In April, in the latest ruling, U.S. District Court John Bates calls the administration's decision to end DACA virtually unexplained and therefore unlawful. Like, that's the beauty of the checks and balances I'm talking about. Dr. King was going to keep reminding us of taking advantage of these checks and balances and improving our lives in our communities on an individual, collective level, because we all have our own responsibility to our own communities. It takes a village to raise a child. That metaphor makes sense in any generation, any situation. On to the next one. Collusion. Trump, February 3rd. This memo totally vindicates Trump. All right. You see, here's the thing, bro. You start tweeting about yourself in the third person, that's a problem. And you put your own name in quotation while you saying, this memo totally vindicates Trump in probe, but the Russian witch hunt goes on and on. There was no... Okay. All right. See, this is awesome right here. This is beautiful right here. Yo. This is beautiful right here. Yo. See, now I absolutely love that Curtis Lee did in his backstory on this May the 5th of 2018. I love that he selected this specific tweet from our twittering tweet of an idiot of a president. I just said twittering tweet, and what twittering tweet is spelled T-W-E-E-T-I-N-G, twittering tweets, T-W-I-T, the original tweet before Twitter became a thing. And that tweet, T-W-I-T, stands for an idiot, a fool, a dummy. I'm just saying. So, I'm glad he actually put this twittering tweet, specific tweet from February the 3rd. Say that 20 times. This twittering tweet, specific tweet. This twittering tweet, specific tweet. He said, this memo totally vindicates Trump, in quotation, in pro. But the Russian witch hunt goes on and on. That's all fine, spelling is fine. And then he goes on to say, there was no collusion and there was no obstruction. I gotta stop there because everybody who sat in the classroom knows, even if somebody who doesn't read right now, black, white, pink, orange, or blue in America, even peanut butter toothpaste here in America. Everybody knows there are two ways to spell there with two different meanings. There's T-H-E-R-E, meaning there, over there. There, like there are too many. And there's T-H-E-I-R, which is like the pronoun form. The there, when you talk about a person, there people, like them people right there. So, in this context, the President of the United States, in his infinite wisdom, should have thought twice or should have known better. How old is this guy? Like 71, like 80? How old is he? Like, yeah, somewhere up there. He's like in his 70s or something. He should have known better that in this context, when he was trying to say dash was no, like, you know how at the SATs they will give you a line that says dash was no collusion and there was no obstruction. This guy said there, T-H-E-I-R, there was no collusion, and there, T-H-E-R-E, was no obstruction. He got it right the second time, but got it wrong the first time. That's how you know the guy's a fucking child. He should have never got to where he was. So to prevent something like this from happening again, after a black man ascended to the presidency of the United States, to prevent something like this from happening again, if you black and brown in America and you good-hearted white in America, good-hearted white folks already read and vote. They're going to read and vote already. That's why I'm asking black and brown people to just get up to their level of reading and voting. Because we need their help just like they need our help to get to their level. Because they believe that we are more than just what we are portrayed to be in the media. They know that good-hearted whites, the 55% that I believe is good-hearted, that doesn't believe in Trump, that doesn't vote for Trump, they recognize little things like this that I recognize, that you recognize, but you don't take action to walk towards it. This man said there was no collusion and there was no obstruction. Come on, Donnie. You couldn't even have spell checked that? Come on, bro. I know we both know that you're stupid. You know that. You truly know that you're stupid, that you have to compensate for by daddy's money, daddy's white wealth. I get it. I absolutely get it. You're quite literally tapped into your white powerness, your white supremacyness, your white privileges. You tapped into it. Ain't nobody taking that away from you, and you know that better than anybody. That's why you got to the point where you got to the point at. You know what I mean? I get it. But come on, bro. Set the example for the little white kids that's at least listening to you. I don't think there are many out there that's listening to you because some of them saw Obama and how presidential and professional and manly he was. They saw that man shed tears when he got to the point where their contemporaries at Sandy Hook Elementary were gunned down unjustly. These little kids know the truth. These little kids know you're full of hot air. It's their parents and their grandpas and grandmas and grandpas and their uncles and little nephews, like their little uncles who's taking them to the movie theater, sitting in front of the theater, seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger shoot off a bunch of bad guys with their Uzi, screaming "fuck you" and all that. Like, yeah, like the Eminem uncle, the Eminem reference in that song. Shady fans know, y'all know where I'm going with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, boy, you got to try. At least since you've occupied the presidency for like 18 months, going on 19 months, 20 months now, please try to do better. I know you're trying. I know you probably going to sit there and think right now, like, oh, this boy really going to have me not give a fuck about what the hell I say and do no more. I get it. That's not what I'm asking you to do. Please do better. Even if you're not running the country better, when you get on Twitter, spell better. There's something called spell check. It's on every technology right now. Check your spelling, fool. Before you wreck your phone, fool. It's like, now let me stop. There, T-H-E-I-R was no collusion. It should have been T-H-E-R-E, just like you use it in the second day. There was no collusion, there was no obstruction. The word now used because after 1 year of looking endlessly and finding nothing, nothing in all caps. At least you've mastered all caps. Yeah, that's not too hard to master. Uh, you can leave the all caps on the phone on and hand it to a monkey, and the monkey will be able to turn off the all caps before you do. Collusion is dead. At least you did not capitalize that. This is an American disgrace. No, Mr. Trump, you are the American disgrace. You are the absolute American disgrace. Of the 38 men who has occupied that White House where you occupying right now, of the 38 dead men, yes, there have been 44 men occupy that presidency of the United States. You make the 44th man. Number 45, you're the 44th man. So, of the 43 that have come before you, 5 are still alive. That means 38 have passed on. Of those 38, I guarantee you right now, each and every one of them, even the racist Nixon, and the racist Andrew Jackson, and the racist Woodrow Wilson, are rolling over, turning over in their graves right now, wishing they could slap the fuck out of you right now, bro. Because you have quite literally sullied the holy fraternity of the pantheon of what it means to be POTUS of the United States. You are the American fucking disgrace. Yeah, I said it. Don't call nothing and nobody else the American disgrace, bro. You are. Get it through your pretty little head. Your thick little peanut butter toothpaste head. Reality check. Trump's tweet come in response to the release of a Republican House memo focused on FBI intelligence practices during the 2016 election. The partisan memo has been assailed by Democrats and lauded by Republicans. While Trump said the memo vindicates him in the Mueller probe, that investigation remains ongoing, still exploring, among other things, possible collusion. Ted Cruz and John Kasich. Trump, April 24th, 2016. Wow, they went back. Lying Ted and Kasich are mathematically dead and totally desperate. Their donors and special interest groups are not happy with them. Sad. At least he put an exclamation point that time. Reality check. This tweet foreshadowed what was to come, regardless of the mathematical lives at the time of the presidential campaigns of Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Ohio Governor John Kasich. After racking up several victories in the GOP primaries, Trump sought to clear the remaining fields with this message. Less than a week after it was sent, both Cruz and Kasich ended their campaigns. In July 2016, Trump secured the GOP nomination at the party's convention in Cleveland, and in November defeated Democrat Hillary Clinton. That was in the paper this morning. There was also an interesting piece about nursing home care and the failures of, some of the state to really regulate them like that. I'm gonna get to that at some point. Let me just pick a random paper here, see what was interesting in there. Governor Jerry Brown. I think that's who should run for president next. It should be Jerry Brown, the outgoing governor of California, and Muriel Bowser, the current mayor of Washington, D.C. Can you imagine a presidential 2020 ticket of Brown Bowser? She's awesome. He's great. And he's a Democrat that believes in fiscal conservatism. He knows West Coast mentality. She knows East Coast mentality. It will be the perfect tandem. You know what I mean? You know, I truly believe that that would be the perfect ticket to get America out of this dumbass bloviate in 4 years. It's gonna be Trump Americans. Like it used to be. My last Uncle Sam was Uncle Samuel Obama. My Uncle Sam before that was Uncle Samuel Bush. My Uncle Samuel before that was Uncle Samuel Clinton. Uncle Samuel Trump is that one uncle that nobody like, yo. That one uncle who knows like to touch on little kids. That nasty shit, that nasty uncle. Yeah, that part right there. So I'm gonna get back to the 4 agreements and to Black Power in a bit, but like I said, man, I got a lot of reading material here. I got about 35 newspapers or so pieces that I need to touch on. This was good. This was this Sunday, April 22nd, LA Times edition. This is the calendar section. You know what I mean? 50 years ago, 1968, was a very, very crucial year. Not just in America, but in the world, you know. It had the big 1968 days, it said Days of Rage and Wonder. It was a turbulent year of anger, grief, and constant change. Half a century later, the Times is taking a look back at 1968 and how it still shapes our world. In a series of occasional stories, we revisit the year's pivotal events and people. This week, we examine cultural shifts in film, television, and music. It's so funny that piece right there, the one you can't see that good, but I'm gonna tell you what it says. It says, when kids kick the doors open. You know what I mean? That piece was part of this series that the Times did last month, back in April. It says, this was the year the beautiful, ugly world arrived with a crash. It's by Jeffrey Fleischman. It goes on to say, I was 9 years old. My father was at war. I watched Vietnam every night on TV. Wind blowing through the tall grass of a distant land. Members of the fallen flashing on the screens, all in black and white. A war in two colors, scary and real in my living room. Ticking away in the hours before Sea Hunt, my favorite show, even though I knew there was a boy that pretend things did not last in a world coming undone. 1968. The number is like family. It was the year I felt pieces of childhood ending. Much of what was going on was hard to understand, but there were moments of sublime and terrible clarity. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King dead, Bobby Kennedy dead, cities ablaze, streets filled with peace signs, placards, and rage. The Beatles helter-skelter, rising from the stereo and in the movie house by the bowling alley. 2001, A Space Odyssey, played sinister magic with the great beyond. You'd come home or go to a friend's house, and there'd be ladies whipping around TVs, fighting and sad about Vietnam's assassinations, riots, hippies, drugs, police dogs, free sex, and all the things that disrupted lives once tidy. It was exhilarating, and it was all there in the trippy yellow submarine. was exhilarating, and it was all there in the trippy yellow submarine movie poster. The flying hair and the bruised house of Janis Joplin, and the darker things John Didion found in slouching towards Bethlehem, and the racism laid bare in Eldridge Cleaver's soul on ice. The day I picked up Hang Time from the library, I also was able to get a copy of Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. I'm like one page in, and it's an intense book. I've never read it before. It's going to be my first time reading it, you know what I mean? I've never read it before, and it came out in 1968. 1968, you know what I mean? 50 years ago. This is not going to be one of those books I'm sure that I'm going to read because I plan on reading this well after. It's 242 pages. That's about 3 weeks, you know, depending on how much time I have to read it. So I'm going to get to that. And I placed that book on hold. I had saw the title in this piece when I read this on the 22nd. I think that's when I placed it on hold, or it might not have been. But I don't think I placed it on hold then until I read about David Rosenberg, who was the founder of the Fortune Society in New York City. If you know the Fortune Society, keep listening. I went through the Fortune Society. They had some of the coolest people there. One of the smartest OGs I've ever met in my life, Mr. John Dawson. That brother did time for some. He's the first one I heard use the phrase hot M&Ms to refer to bullets, you know what I mean? And I said this brother did time. He did some serious hard time. Came out, was going through this whole society. I went to so many mock interviews. It's a lot of people I met. They were really, really smart and influential. But I remember his name because he was the instructor in our class. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things he breaks down, like how the Fortune Society is a program. It's a non-profit program that helps people with records be able to go through the interview process and the job application process, like answering simple questions like, have you ever been convicted of a felony on your application? You know what I mean? A lot of people don't get this, but to someone who has a record, questions like that are hard to answer because it could cost you your job. It could cost you not getting a job, period. You know what I mean? So the Fortune Society does great work. They do great work. Big ups to them. Kudos to them. You know what I mean? Emerson Soto, I still get your emails, yo. I still get your emails, Emerson. I get them. I read them all the time. I read people's stories. I'm not in a financial position to do anything to help contribute to the work you guys do, but you guys know you do great work. I'm going to leave it at that. You know what I mean? So John does his breakdown something. So, and the guy, David Rosenberg that started the Fortune Society, that book, Soul on Ice, influenced him so much to the point where it led to him starting the Fortune Society back in '67, back in the early '70s or the late '60s, I think. You know what I mean? So yeah, shit like that matters to someone like me. I care about things like that. So I just referenced that because of what I placed the book on hold after I found out the connection between David's founding of the Fortune Society and his reading of that book. So I had to pick up that book, even though I had read about this piece about maybe 2 weeks before. So, and the racism laid bare in Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. I was too young for such books then. But the larger meaning that they still were in the air, shaping me. In the library, I saw a copy of Norman Mailer's The Armies of the Night, which I thought was about soldiers, but was really about the anti-war march of the Pentagon and how men and women were wasted by lies that could no longer be told. You can't tell any more lies, Trump. You can't. Cut that shit out. I know it's hard for you. You've been lying your whole life since the day you came out your mama. You've been lying, fool. But it's hard. But walk on it one day at a time. Baby steps. Okay? Baby steps. I heard what Jimi Hendrix could do with a guitar. His cover of Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower, busting from the radio in my mother's Rambler, and thought that art comes from all kinds of places and seeks a home in you. It made me feel the delicious danger and freedom of discovery. Every generation has its arts, music, literature, crystallizing narrative, and mesmerizing forces that define who we are in the space-time continuum. Our generation don't. That's why you always hear them talk about millennials this, millennials that. I can't blame them. We have the cards, we have everything stacked against us, yes. But you know what's the one thing that we have that other generations had? Or one thing that we lack that other generations had? They actually believed in action. We have everything else at our disposal that they couldn't have possibly had at their disposal. But our lack of inaction, our sense of not wanting to do things, nothing about anything, is affecting us, is hindering us. I must say this part again. Every generation has its art, music, literature, crystallizing narratives, and mesmerizing forces that define who we are in this space-time continuum. We got to define who we are. I'm offering some semblance of a path, but we got to get our minds wrapped around this simple fact that we can do it. They got us thinking we can, but we so can. There are sometimes conflated and assigned importance beyond their era. A few do transcend, most do not. But 1968 was the beginning of my long coming of age. My realization that the world beyond my backyard, beyond the church confessional, and the sacred host held high, beyond the base pool and the officer's commissary, carried secrets and truths as mysterious and beautiful as constellation. I could feel it hunting hill in stormpipes with my best friend, Matt Boss, reading letters from my father in Vietnam, watching Teddy Kennedy's eulogy for his slain brother Bobby, staring at innocence and tragedy in Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, and hearing this, and when he shall die, take him and cut him into little pieces, and he will make the faces of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night. I had not known Shakespeare until then. I did not know words could do such things. I did not understand all of them. The subtitles would reveal themselves in time, but I was startled at the wonder of how words could make you feel the sting and sorrows of for forbidden love. I decided to be a writer and marry Juliet, or more precisely, the actress who played her, Olivia Hussey, but I wore a clip-on tie, hauled around a Batman lunchbox, and was bad at arithmetics. I was doomed. I kept an eye on headlines, though bold and ominous, and one day saw the picture of John Carlos and Tommy Smith raising their black-gloved fists on the medal podium at the Olympics in Mexico City. A Jewish white 9-year-old being inspired by two black men raising a fist. Colin Kaepernick, you did that when you sat down. You did that. I applaud you for that. Your heart was in the right place. But there's a lot more you could do that is at your disposal. You've earned $43 million from sports compensation in 6 years of play. You are in a position to do a lot more than just write a book that people are not going to read. Black folks aren't going to read it. I'm going to tell you right now. We had a concert one time in my job where Sherry Shepherd, the comedian, she had two books. One of them was called Plan D. It's about diabetes and, certain diets and things like that. And the other one, I cannot remember the actual title of it. You know what I mean? She had two books. She was selling them, $25 a piece, two for 40. You know what I mean? So cool and dandy. I remember the price because, like, I'm trying to tell you, she came out with about 75 books. We probably ended up selling less than 15. The crowd was 95% black. It was this one sister who came up there intoxicated, you know what I mean? So she was speaking her truth. Me and my manager standing right there. She looked at us point blank. She ain't gonna buy no book, she ain't gonna read it. And I get it, I feel it. Black folks don't read. That's why they said it best. To keep a secret from a black man, you put it in a motherfucking book. We ain't never gonna know what the hell that secret is. Like I'm saying, I'm not expecting a bunch of black folks to be picking up books all of a sudden. If it does, I'll be happy. I'd rather see a book in your hand than a gun. Smack a nigga upside the head with a book. He gonna smack you with another book. Then y'all gonna realize that, okay, the book is to be read, not to be smacked each other with. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Like I said, I rather books and not guns. I was born and raised in a violent African nation. And we're not the ones making the guns. $32 billion worth of arms was stolen and resold in the market. And resold in the market, which led to 11 major conflicts. My nation had one of those conflicts, involving 32 countries in less than a decade in the 90s. We ain't making no guns. Little Uche and Chinima ain't making no damn guns. Little Jamal and Andre and Tyrell ain't making no guns. But Blue Eric and Erica are making the guns. They're growing up to be gun makers and selling them to the black folks. You know what I mean? Like, read, yo. Like I say, Cap, like the racist Will King said it best. Is this part, I'm trying to say, is this part when it was the day the report came out that you were given $1 million advance to write a book. So they had the discussion and all that, and Will King ended it best. He closed out best. Like I say, it's so many things that Stephen A. wanted to say to that man in certain ways, but he couldn't. Stephen A. works for Disney. The man knows what he can and he knows how far he can go, like what he can get away with and what he can't get away with. He's a black man in America, a smart, intelligent, articulate black man, well-dressed black man in America at that. The racist Will King said it best. He did this too towards the end. He said, read, not write. He's right, Cat. Read, not write. Not yet. I'm not saying never write. Like this guy told me recently, because he always see me holding someone reading. He said, oh, he likes to write, he doesn't like to read. And I looked at him, I said, that is an oxymoron to the fullest extent. He said, what does that mean? And I walked away. Because if you tell me you like to write and don't like to read, and I tell you that is an oxymoron to the fullest extent, and you don't get that and you supposedly like to write, it's a problem with what you're trying to write in the first place. If you read it right out there, you know what I mean. If you don't, the rest of us black society needs you to catch up to that point. Like I said, I'm an avid reader. I'm always going to be able to read. Every chance I get, I will pick up a book and read. I don't like to read on phones and audibles because you have enough distractions on those phones already that's distracting you from what you're reading anyway. There's nothing like holding a physical book itself or paper itself and playing with the paper, like, you know what I mean, like doing all that with it, like, it's fun. You can put bookmarks on it, you can fold it back, you can do all that good shit with it. It's fun, it's awesome. It's awesome sauce. You know what I mean? So there's that. And I guarantee you, in my mind, I swear, I'm probably going to reach about maybe 10% of the 50% I'm hoping to reach, that's going to actually maybe take it upon themselves. You're going to have to want to do it. Reading is fundamental. Like that is as true as white is as rice, as right is as white. You know what I mean? But back to where I was at. He went on to say, I kept an eye on headlines though, bold and ominous, and one day saw the picture of John Carlos and Tommy Smith raising their black gloved fists on the medal podium at the Olympics in Mexico City. It was fierce and brave, a defiant act against racism of the country whose flags they stood beneath. It moved and scared me. What was happening to my land? Someone had shaken loose all its sins, and no one knew the way out of the storm. America's original sin is slavery, which in turn makes America's original boogeyman the black man and woman. From day one, from the dawn of this new world that turned into the United States of America, that's been it. Mr. Cleaver's Soul on Ice spoke eloquently to the legacy of slavery and oppression. The book, a collection of essays written from Folsom, tells how Cleaver, who would go on to be a leader in the Black Panther, had raped white women as a perverse insurrection against the systemic brutality done to his race. It was piercing and honest, and at times filled with the belief that even a ruined man could find renewal. And why does he make you sad to see how everything hangs by such thin and whimsical threads? Because you're a dreamer, an incredible dreamer with a tiny spark hidden somewhere inside you which cannot die, which even you cannot kill or quench, and which tortures you horribly, because all the odds are against its continual burning. In the midst of the foulest decay and putrid savagery, this spark speaks to you of beauty, of human warmth and kindness, of goodness, of greatness, of heroism, of martyrdom, and it speaks to you of love. Images flowed in restless rivers out of our Zenith TV sets. Television was the oracle. It was what radio was to my grandparents and what the internet would be to my children. A magic portal to the majestic and the horrible. That's why Donald Trump can't read no books. Because he came up in the TV age. You dummy. TV was the oracle. It was what radio was to my grandparents and what the internet would be to my children. A magic portal to the majestic and the horrible. A boy of 9 could see the big wall peeking on Peyton Place, be aroused and confused by Rowan and Martin's laughing, shoot imaginary cowboy pistols at Bonanza, and watch Walter Cronkite sit at his desk with maps and B-roll, and in a voice as familiar as your own echo, tell you what you needed to know. And this is a direct quote from who I seem to be Walter Cronkite. To say that we are closer to victory today, he said in a commentary that shook America's notion of Vietnam, is to believe in the face of the evidence the optimists who have been wrong in the past. To suggest we are on the edge of defeat is to yield to unreasonable pessimism. To say that we are mired in stalemate seems the only realistic yet unsatisfactory conclusion. Nobody likes a stalemate. The air bristled with one epoch colliding with another. Eyes alight, batons, fires and tear gas, all moving in a great devouring swirl. The 1967 March on the Pentagon, the building that sent my father to war, seethed with the venom against a government no longer trusted by a generation unbound. Norman Mailer, a scrappy writer with immense ego and bullish insight, was an ideal voice for the chaos and cracked mirror of a nation when he published The Armies of the Night a year later. The new generation believed in technology more than any before it, but the generation also believed in LSD, in witches, in tribal knowledge, in orgy and revolution. He had no respect whatsoever for the unassailable logic of the next step. Belief was reserved for the revelatory mystery of the happening, which you did not know what was going to happen next. That was what was good about it. Their radicalism was in their hate for authority. The authority was the manifest evil of this generation. It was all around me, incomprehensible yet indivisible. I felt like a boy spying through keyholes on a ferocious wall pressing closer. Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? Oh my God. That's how things came at you on the TV, in haunting shades of gray. You could feel your bones move, just like they did that morning the phone rang and we got dressed up and hurried to the airport. The plane's wings flashed silver and white. The engine stopped roaring, and the door opened. My father had come home from the war. He descended in sunlight. I studied him. This man I hardly knew. He was thinner. His eyes were wet. I kept glancing at him on the ride home. The line of his jaw, his hands on the wheel, a ghost made flesh. There were times in a son's life when he wonders where his own path will lead, what he will carry to the edge of wherever he is going. One day I asked him, "Did you kill anyone?" My father did not answer. He cooked burgers and steaks on the grill. Grease hissed and wisps rose from charcoal and vanished. It seemed for a moment that things were as they should be. The scent of mowed grass, kids yelling from other yards. But they weren't. They'd never be the same. Not the country, not the headlines, not books written, not songs sung, not all the words out there in rage and fury. Not all the prayers and hymns of protest. Not the false prophets, not the true believers. Nothing will be the same, not even me. By Jeffrey Fleischman of the LA Times. Let me see what else good was in this article right here. They want to talk about movies, cultural moments. Cultural moments. They got a picture of April 10th, 1968, Oscars in black and white. The 40th Academy Awards postponed 2 days after the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's February 4th assassination honored two Sidney Poitier films 4 years after he became the first black actor to win an Oscar. But while his white co-stars from In the Heat of the Night Above and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner were nominated, he wasn't. That ain't nothing new. Seismic Changes on TV by Lorraine Ali. She's a television critic. It says, amid the status quo, Mod Squad went places that 12 Adam just couldn't go. One black, one white, one blonde was the tagline for a new kind of cop show that premiered in 1968 on the heels of Vietnam's bloody Tet Offensive, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, a shootout between the Black Panthers and Oakland police, and the passage of the Fair Housing Act. The Mod Squad featured a multi-racial trio of nonconformist crime fighters. Long Long-haired rebel Pete, black activist Link, Flower Girl Julie. On other long-running detective shows of the era, such as Dragnet, they would have been cast as the disrespectful young people arrested during aimless protests or raid on a free love cult. The rabble on the wrong side of the law was now the law. Series TV, like the country, was changing. It had one foot in Mars Squad while the other remained planted in the safety and comfort of institutional protocol, meaning the crisp uniforms and above the hair airlines of another Cup series that debuted that year, Adam 12. Yeah. TV racism. I ain't trying to read about that. I ain't trying to read about that so people already knew that. Ice Cube talks about that all the time. Let me see, what else was interesting? This was a crossword puzzle piece I was doing. Let me see here. Oh yeah, this is the reason why I kept this, because I usually don't keep too much of the calendar sections after I finish doing the crossword puzzle, but certain ones have certain articles in there that I like to keep and read for save for later reference. This is an article from April 19th, Thursday, in the calendar section. It says, "Here's why Lamar won a Pulitzer Prize. 5 songs show how the rap artist's experiences, rhythms, and outlook earned it. Much of the reaction to Monday's announcement that the Compton rapper Kendrick Lamar had won a Pulitzer Prize for music with his album Damn amounted to something like, finally." Yo, speaking of Compton, right? That's why I love Marcellus, yo. Marcellus be like, every time he tell people he went to Columbia, an Ivy League college. And then they ask him where he from. He from Compton. He like, a boy from Compton went to Columbia and graduated with a degree in sociology? Like what? That's that dude's dude right there, man. What's up, Marcellus? Can't wait for your book, yo. And you gave it the perfect title, Never Shut Up. What? What? Hell yeah. Man, I can't wait. And LZ, I went for your book too, bro. Like, yeah, bro, I know you like one of them smart brothers right there who, like what? LZ Granderson, LZ Lee Granderson. Boy, I went for your book too, man. Drop that. You know what I mean? You, Stephen A, Amina Lassan, all y'all brothers, man. I went for y'all books like crazy. What? Marcelo, so I can't wait, bro. Like I say, hopefully I get some money and pre-order so I can get it the week it comes out. You know what I mean? That would be awesome. But yeah. Much of the reaction to Monday's announcement that the Compton rapper Kendrick Lamar had won a Pulitzer Prize. Pulitzer Prize winner Kendrick Lamar. Woo! That is beautiful, brother. That is beautiful. A steadily strengthening force since its birth in the 70s, aspects of hip-hop has unquestionably dominated pop culture for years now. Look at Black Panther, look at Atlanta, look at Beyonce's last weekend at Coachella, which makes this recognition of one of its prime movers feel overdue at best. Yet, by selecting the 30-year-old Lamar, it's not as though the Pulitzer Committee were merely throwing an award to any prime mover it picked out of a hat. Indeed, The backlash already seen online from some of the classical music world composers who believe that the famous rapper isn't the one in need of more attention suggests the jurors might have saved themselves the grief if they had felt they could avoid it. Perhaps they consulted the Nobel Prize people for reassurance after the latter were criticized by novelists and poets for giving Bob Dylan the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2016. Clearly, though, the Pulitzer Committee encountered a musician in Lamar whose work demands honor in the particular. Here are 5 of his songs from Damn and Elsewhere that demonstrates what the jurors heard. DNA. Yo, everybody uses DNA now. I'm not saying the word wasn't out before. Even Melissa McCarthy recently was talking about how her struggling and things like that was something that's in her DNA. Thank you, Kendrick. It's beautiful because a black creative craft, hip-hop, that came out of a movement of poetry and beatboxing. Hip-hop, which was a form of release for us and ours, you and mine. You know what I mean? Hip-hop, in that context, has earned a brother a Pulitzer Prize winning effort. That cannot be taken lightly. That cannot be taken lightly at all. Chris Rock said it best, like Rolling Stones had this interesting piece back in, I don't know if it was '07 or '06 or '08 or something. It was probably a little before that. But they had this piece where they referenced a Chris Rock line where he said, something must be going on in America when the best golfer is black and the best rapper is white. He was talking about Tiger Woods and Eminem, you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad Kendrick Lamar is doing what he's doing because, honestly, I believe that hip-hop died in 2008. And the reason I say hip-hop died in 2008, it died with the Carter 3. That's why I was so disappointed when Lil Wayne came out of his dumbass little peanut little ignorant self talking about black president and did nothing when the real nigga up in the White House. You fool. You got a real nigga up in there now. Go ahead, deal with that. But long story short though, like to me hip hop died then, you know what I mean? For real, don't get me wrong, Jay-Z had 2 great albums after that. Kanye did his thing with his little publicity stunt with him and 50 Cent and all that. Then he had My Beautiful Dark Sweet. He had a couple of nice albums out there, but like I'm saying, real true, forward-thinking, thought-provoking hip-hop lyrics, the kind that Eminem used to have, but just on a different level, it was dead and gone to me till Kendrick came back on the scene. Period. That's why I can appreciate when an American institution like the Pulitzer Committee, could look past all the other extra, could look past the trees in the forest and see the whole forest for what it is and realize that, yo, maybe it's about time where we could have recognized other albums like Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 25 years prior or 30 years prior. But to recognize them for what it is, for the great piece of work that it is, kudos to the Pulitzer Committee. You've proven in this age of Trumpian un-Americanism that there are truly still viable American institutions that live up to the American standard of doing right based on merit, based on the contents of somebody's character, the contents of somebody's work, and not the color of their skin. Thank you. So, here are 5 of his songs from Damn and Elsewhere that demonstrates what the jurors heard. In singling out Lamar's album, the Pulitzer organization praised Damn for its affecting vignette capturing the complexity of modern African American life And nowhere in that is that complexity more palpable than in this cut about the power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. One of Lamar's signature one of Lamar's signatures on them is jumping around different perspectives. But here he inhabits each with so much detail. From the 9-year-old living in a motel to the budding superstar sipping from a Grammy. Speaking of 9-year-olds, like Jesse Kleinsman's as a 9-year-old when, you know, John Carlos and Tommy Smith with the gloved fist. It's a mentality thing, Black America. If you got a 9-year-old child right now, you got to get that 9-year-old developing habits, like knowing that mommy and daddy, or mommy or daddy, or mommy who's mommy and daddy. You know what I mean? You got to know that mommy and daddy expect you to be able to read what they put in front of you. That mommy and daddy expects me to just do more than just play games on my phone. Mommy and daddy expect me to graduate high school and do more than that and go beyond. That mommy and daddy expects me to vote because I'm seeing mommy and daddy voting. So mommy and daddy, or just mommy or just daddy, if you're not doing those things right now for your 9-year-olds, for your 14-year-olds, for your 12-years, for your 6-year-olds, for your 7-year-olds, this is what I'm talking about. It takes a village, and charity begins at home. The apartment you share with your children is your home, for better or for worse. It's not the American dream home with a white picket fence and all that. But that's a whole nother ballpark for a whole nother hour, for a whole nother concept. You know what I mean? But it goes hand in hand. Back to this though. In singling out Lamar's album, the Pulitzer organization praised them for its affecting vignette capturing the complexity of modern African American life. And nowhere is that complexity more palpable than in this cut about the power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. One of Lamar's signature on them is jumping among different perspectives. But here he inhabits each with so much detail, from the 9-year-old living in a motel to the budding superstar sipping from a Grammy. That you understand it was not as role play, though he can do that too, but as lived experience. Humble, of course, was the only one component of Lamar's music. The committee also drew attention to the rhythmic dynamism of Damn, which might be best exemplified by this funky yet hard-knocking single that reached #1 on Billboard's Hot 100. On tour last year, Lamar sometimes presented Humble as an a cappella rap-along moment for his fans, who seemed to recite every word in perfect time, proof of a beat so strong that you can hear even when it's not playing. Yo, you know that co-worker that I reference all the time, Stephanie, that told me about that reiterated the importance of how the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz was so important to her. Yo, Kendrick, when I say if you got one biggest fan in the world, it's gotta be this girl, yo. And I say, like, Steph is like your die hard. When I say the time you was at Staples Center, the 2 days you was at Staples Center, but when we walked that event, when we came back in, when I say you was on TV, we were doing our closing duties, counting our inventory, counting our money bank for the day, all that stuff, all that. We're doing our closing paperwork and all that. When I say she literally sat there singing along to her words, like, I don't have that impeccable of a memory to remember lyrics, except if it's Bob Marley and some of Eminem. That's just how my mind works, you know what I mean? Like, that's like a great American talent that I don't have. to memorize lyrics off the top of the dome like that. You know what I mean? I don't have that. When I say Stephanie got them was all top of her head, when you get to every part where you do the whole Kung Fu Kenny and all that, man, she got them shit down on pack. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I get why you won the Pulitzer. You have haters who don't get it. You have black folks who don't grasp the importance of what the Pulitzer is. You know what I mean? That's like Nas and Tupac's lyrics being studied at Harvard University, at Columbia University. Just like I'm sure your lyrics will be studied at those universities as time goes on because you are a Pulitzer winning artist. Love. Lamar on Damn isn't always taking a wide view. For this disarming love song, the rapper zooms in on the day-to-day reality of a committed relationship with an intimacy that can be startling. Bad attitude from your nanny, curves and your hips from your mammy. He raps, his tone as tender and playful as it is techno, gruff and humble. These walls. Pulitzer, Lamar's Pulitzer isn't a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's tied specifically to them. Yet prizes like this always signal the consideration of an artist's entire body of work. And for Lamar, it seems likely that the jurors were impressed by his use of jazz textures and players. Familiar terrains for the Pulitzers. In songs like this one from 2007, 2015's To Pimp a Butterfly album. To miss the gorgeous electric piano, don't miss the gorgeous electric piano exertion about 5 minutes in. You can't miss it. You can't forget it. Like, I listen to Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis and John Coltrane and and people like that a lot. Like, and I hear twinges of that in a lot of the hip hop and R&B songs that's been out in the last 15, 20 years. Especially right now with like Bruno Mars and Kendrick Lamar and what's his name, Bryson Tiller. Like even I can throw Sam Smith in that category as far as using jazz influences. It is beautiful when you hear it. You got to be able to recognize it because jazz is the only true American original art form. After that, it was hip hop. Period. To the pit of misery, dilly dilly. Alright. Swimming pools, drinks. One of several breakout tracks from Lamar's 2012 major label debut, Good Kid, Mad City. This woozy, slow jam finds the rapper contemplating the risk of alcoholism for a young man who grew up around some people living their lives in bottles. What distinguishes this song beyond the way it makes unsteadiness into a kind of musical device is how clear-eyed Lamar can be about someone's feelings even as he rejects the temptation of ridicule. That's all it was in this one today. So, you're going out the window. You know what? I gotta go see a man about a horse real quick. I'll be back. Enjoy the silence of, who is that? John Coltrane in the background real quick. I'll be back. Yo, I know this is kind of way out of left field, but if you've listened to this point, you know I come out of left field a lot. So when I was like in my early 20s, late teens, just starting out of my, getting my own place and all that, paying my own way, and doing little things like that. When I used to try to search online for roommates and little things like that, I always used to see something that always used to get me mad and ticked off. I used to see people put no black men, please. Like, I used to think a bunch of people were just racially prejudiced for that to a certain extent. If you can't tell where I'm leading with this already, I just gotta say, I can understand why a lot of people put their stuff on like ads for roommates now. I've lived with a bunch of different black men in the last 12 years, in the last 12 months, 14 months, you know. That really makes me understand how people would say that. That's based off of their experience of sharing living spaces with such black men that they're referring to. And like I said, I'm not classifying everybody in that. I'm one of those that don't fall in that category because I keep my shit clean. I keep shit legit. You know what I mean? But the hardest fucking thing ever is to get a brother out here to make sure that where he's living at, where you shit, shower, and shave at is clean. I'm just saying, especially your bathroom. Like, that's like the one common area that anybody that comes visit you might need to use. Even if you're not clean, put it this way. You don't want the honey to come see you where you at either in the bathroom dirty. She might not say it to your face, but she always gonna be thinking about it. I'm just saying. She is. That's human nature. That's as natural as me and you gonna go take a shit. It's as natural as that. It's all about Paul Ryan. I ain't trying to hear that. Okay, where was I? I don't know. I'm trying to decide if maybe I should get into, into Black Power a little bit. Let me go through the first chapter. Chapter 1, titled White Power. Like, I really want to get through this chapter and then get on chapter 2 of 4 agreements. Chapter 2 of 4 agreements is the first agreement, being impeccable with your word. You know what I mean? It's literally titled Be Impeccable with Your Word. And the breakdown of that chapter is so important to part of the message I'm trying to portray, or I'm trying to put forth out here, that I feel like I have to read that part first. But because of the sheer importance and utter urgency of what Trump is representing as far as the white power structure in America, I also feel like I should get into this chapter 1 first, and then I can explain what it means to be impeccable with your word. Let's see if that makes sense. I might need to go get something to drink though. I don't know. I just might need to go get something to drink. Okay. Where was I? Chapter 1 in Black Power, as you remember where I left off last. Chapter 1 is titled White Power, the Colonial Situation. It first references a quote from a book titled Dark Ghetto by Dr. Kenneth B. Clark. And he goes on to say, the dark ghettos are social, political, educational, and above all, economic colonies. Their inhabitants are subject peoples, victims of the greed, cruelty, insensitivity, guilt, and fear of their masters. Try and tell you, you want to put the fear of God into white America? Let them see us reading and voting. Man, every good-hearted white person knows that. Every good-hearted white person knows it. And every hateful, hated white person knows it too. That's what the bad-hearted white folks are afraid of. I'm trying to tell ya, I'm not bullshitting you. I bullshit you now, Black America. They're afraid of you. That's why they want to keep keeping you down. They are. But not in the sense that we think they're afraid of us. Not physically. Nah, they're not afraid of us physically. They've proven we can't fuck with them physically. Because the most we're going to do is fuck up our own communities anyway. I'm trying to tell you, yo, they got us right where they want us. And I know a lot of people, a lot of ignorant, closed-minded black folks are probably saying, they're thinking like, why is this booty scratching African still talking about us like he one of us? It's easier to just go along with it right there for the sake of what I'm saying instead of trying to make that distinction all the time. But up to this point, if you still haven't grasped that concept that before I open my mouth, that white police officer with that gun is going to shoot you just like he's going to shoot me without question, because black is black to them. But 9 times out of 10, the situation is going to be different because I make a concerted effort. I truly make a concerted effort. That's why it's a lot of young black men, a lot of older black men in America call me a punk. They call me a bitch ass nigga. Yeah, you know what? I know I'm not, so call me what you want. But I know the consequences of certain things, so I'm going to avoid putting myself in certain situations so I don't have to deal with those consequences. When that white boy pull that trigger, it's done. He good. He gets to go home and sleep in his bed. He's probably going to regret that shit for a while, and that's it. I'm the one dead and gone. My family got to grieve over me. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I like breathing air too much. I like waking up in the morning every morning, because that's the greatest gift God could ever fucking give me, yo. Just wake me up in the morning, God. He knows I'm going to make a concerted effort to do what I can for me. Everything's going to fall into place, good or bad, as long as you're up in the morning. Not everybody has the luxury of waking up in the morning. Not everybody's going to wake up this morning. But a lot of people are. Take advantage of it. A lot of us are not. We're wasting our time out here. You know what I mean? But yeah, Dr. Kenneth B. Clark in Dark Ghetto on page 11 said, the dark ghettos are social, political, educational, and above all, economic colonies. That's why black buying power is like $1.7 trillion. But that money is not going to us because we don't own anything that we have to buy into. The white power structure owns everything. And that buying power is not coming back to our communities. To those economic colonies that is the dark ghetto. Their inhabitants are subject peoples, victims of the greed, cruelty, insensitivity, guilt, and fear. The 5 pillars, just like Islam has the 5 pillars of Islam, the 5 pillars of keeping the black man down in America. The 5 pillars of making the black man face look like that. Greed, cruelty, insensitivity, guilt, and fear of the masters, namely of the white masters. The 5 pillars of keeping us down. Now, I'm going to remind you, if you just started listening at this point right now, this book that I'm reading from was written 51 years ago in 1967, a year before Dr. King was killed. This book came up with the phrase in institutional racism. Okay, so and this is another quote that starts off the chapter titled White Power, the Colonial Situation. This quote is from the New York Review of Books from August the 18th of 1966, in a book by I.F. Stone. And it goes on to say on page 10 of the New York Review of Books, in an age of decolonization, it may be fruitful to regard the problem of the American Negro as a unique case of colonialism, an instance of internal imperialism, an underdeveloped people in our very midst. Stokely Carmichael and Charles Hamilton started off the book as asking, what is racism? The word has represented daily reality to millions of black people for centuries. Yet it is rarely defined, because perhaps just because their reality has been such a commonplace. By racism, we mean the predication of decisions and policies on consideration of race for the purpose of subordinating a racial group and maintaining control over that group. People who know me know that I've claimed to be a racist in the past. Said I only claim that because it's easier for them to believe that I could have racist tendencies compared to a white man who's racist. It's a difference. And I always say to that I always tell them that I've earned the right to be a racist because I'm a black man in America. To make matters worse, I'm a black African in America. I know that was an oxymoron and all that, but still. As a black man, I've earned the right to be a racist. It's called 400 years of slavery, of free white labor called slavery. But I don't think I am. I know I'm not. No. It's not I don't think. I know I'm not a racist. Because a racist believes in one race being superior than the other. I don't believe that. We're all humans on equal footing. But because of white power, white supremacy, and white might, they got the whole world believing that white is right and white is superior, and they want to keep that. That's what racism is. One group of people believing they're superior to everybody else who's a subordinate to them. I don't believe such things. So by definition, I cannot be a racist. I just have openly anti-racial views, and because of this is the United States of America, you cannot have a clear-cut, true dialogue about race without both participants coming off as being racist because of what they have to say out of their mouths. That's why I welcome and invite everyone who's a Trump-believing supporter, who's a Trump-voting white man in America. Please have an open debate with me. My only stipulation is we have the debate live on YouTube. That's not controlled by FCC guidelines per se. That way we can say whatever you want to say. You can say all the nigger words you want to say. Trust me, because I'm going to say all the cracker words I want to say. And if you're Hispanic, bring it on too. We can have that conversation. Just believe one thing. I'm not going to get violent. You can call me a nigger to my face all you want. The average black man might think that that doesn't pain me, but it pains me. It pains me when I use it. You can call me that all you want. My only thing is, though, don't go calling no women bees and hoes in front of me, man. Because like that, I cringe when I hear a man use the B word. Like, I literally get goosebumps on the back. Like, I cringe. The back of my neck cringes like, ugh, I can't, nah, dog. I can't do it. It's 2018. There are plenty other words in the English dictionary that can be used to describe a woman that's not a female dog. That's just me, though. So that invitation has been extended. Alex Smith, not to you, man. You're just an idiot. So I tell you, you know what? Let me be specific in who that invitation is to. My Dicker, I would love to have that conversation with you. Thank God ESPN got rid of you before Trump took their office. I would have loved to have heard your opinions doing NFL Live or like NFL Sunday Countdown, doing the whole Trump calling NFL players sons of bitches and the process going on. I'd have loved to have heard your opinions of that. Thank God ESPN got rid of you before that. Yeah, I would debate my dick though. Will Ken, I would debate you all day. Kid Rock, I can't debate you because you're a fool, dog. You know what I mean? Steve Bannon, I would debate Steve Bannon. I would throw Sean Hannity in there, but he has enough on his plate right now. He only this African jumping on this case. You know what I mean? He got enough on his plate right now. But yeah, like I would debate those white men right there because at least they have some sense. They have an idea of what they talk about in their head. Their racism is real. Their racism comes with good reason. Like Will Kane said, it's a lot of rednecks down in the South who still see the Confederate flag as a badge of honor. And he respects that and he views it the same. And I get it. But that Confederate flag represents pro-slavery tendencies, pro-slavery beliefs. So, it doesn't matter what they want to view as what it is. They're still wrong for that, bro. But that's just me, though. By racism, we mean the predication of decisions and policies on consideration of race for the purpose of subordinating a racial group and maintaining a control over that group. That has been the practice of this country towards the black man. We shall see why and how. I told you this book blew my mind. That's why I truly believe that if every black person in America who can read and write, if you can't read, please learn how to. Every library offers reading classes. Every library in America does offer reading classes. Especially libraries in poor communities. They do. I'm just saying. That has been the practice of this country towards the black man. We shall see why and how. Ooh, we got Miles Davis or Miles in the Sky. That's the man. Prince of Darkness. That's the man right there. But where was I? Racism is both overt and covert. It takes two. Ooh, I'm down to like 2 cigarettes. I gotta get some Jacks, yo. If you don't know, that's a DMV thing, Jacks. Jacks means cigarettes, more specifically Newport. Hey, yo, you got some Jacks in? Yo, you got Jacks? Hey, yo, who got Jacks in? Hey, yo, who took my Jacks? Who smoked my pack of Jacks, yo? Just like New York say Lucy's, DC say Jacks. Like mambo sauce. Man, I miss me some mambo sauce. If it's one thing I could literally want from the DMV right now, yo, it's some it's some caviar, some caviar with some real mambo sauce now. Not that fake light watery shit. I'm talking about some thick mambo sauce. Get me 6 wings and French fries with mambo sauce all over. Don't even put it on the side. You can give me some on the side if you want, you know what I mean? If it's not gonna be extra, put some on the side. But I want it all over. I want that sucker to soak all up in them wings and then fat. Man, I miss me some mambo sauce. I ain't had no mambo sauce. I ain't had no 6 wings and French fries with mambo sauce since like maybe July, September of 2016, yo. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. Like House of China on the Riverdale and Auburn, they had the best they had the best wings with French fries and mambo sauce out PG, yo. I ain't even gonna lie. I don't care what anybody else say. House of China, by their laundromat, by their Family Dollar, by their Rite Aid, on the fucking Riverdale and Auburn, across that from Auburn Manor. Shit, that shit, man, them people got that shit on lock, on deck. But yeah, what was that? Racism is both overt and covert. It takes two closely related forms. Individual whites acting against individual black, and the act of the total white community against the black community. We call this individual racism and institutional racism. The first consists of overt acts by individuals, which causes death, injury, or the violent destruction of property. This type can be recorded by television cameras. It can frequently be observed in the process of commission. The second type is less overt, far more subtle, less identifiable in terms of specific individuals committing the act, but it is no less destructive of human life. This second type originates in the operation of established and respected forces in the society, and thus receives far less public condemnation than the first type. When white terrorists bomb a black church and kill 5 black children, it is an act of individual racism, widely deployed by most segments of the society. But when in that same city, Birmingham, Alabama, 500 black babies die each year because of the lack of proper food, shelter, and medical facilities, and thousands of more are destroyed and maimed physically, emotionally, and intellectually because of conditions of poverty and discrimination in the black community, that is a function of institutional racism. I'm realizing that I'm really trying to talk over the music here, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want to wake up the other occupants of my humble abode that it is where I'm at doing this right now. So I'm gonna reread that again, but I had to cut that off so I can hear myself read this and think right. You know what I mean? It says, when white terrorists bomb a black church and kill 5 black children. Speaking of white terrorists, I don't know if I told you earlier. If I did, what I'm saying it again, you know. Repetition is key, right? It was this little white boy named Michael Christopher Estes. He was planning on blowing up some airport in North Carolina last year because he wanted to, according to him, he wanted to start a culture war. He had a thing with Islam or some shit or another. But yeah, speaking of white terrorists, Donald Trump. When white terrorists bomb a black church and kill 5 black children, that is an act of individual racism. Widely deployed by most segments of the society. But when in that same city, Birmingham, Alabama, 500 black babies die each year because of the lack of proper food and shelter and medical facilities, and thousands more are destroyed and maimed physically, emotionally, and intellectually because of conditions of poverty and discrimination in the black community, that is a function of institutional racism. When a black family moves into a home in a white neighborhood and is stoned, burned, or routed out, they are victims of an overt act of individual racism, which many people will condemn, at least in words. But it is institutional racism that keeps black people locked in dilapidated slum tenements, subject to the daily prey of exploitative slumlords, merchants, loan sharks, and discriminatory real estate agents. Loan sharks, payday loan lenders. The society either pretends it does not know of this latter situation or is in fact incapable of doing anything meaningful about it. We shall examine the reasons for this in a moment. Institutional racism relies on the active and pervasive operation of anti-black attitudes and practices. A sense of superior group position prevails. Whites are better than blacks. Therefore, blacks should be subordinated to whites. This is a racist attitude and it permeates the society on both the individual and institutional level, covertly and overtly, openly and behind the scenes. That's pretty much what it's saying. Respectable. Respectable individuals can absolve themselves from individual blame. They will never plan a bomb in a church. They will never stone a black family. But they continue to support political officials and institutions that would and do perpetuate institutionally racist policies. These acts of overt individual racism may not typify the society, but institutional racism does. With the support of covert institutional racism, with the support of covert individual attitudes of racism. As Charles Silberman wrote in Crisis in Black and White, what we are discovering in short is that the United States, all of it, North as well as South, West as well as East, is a racist society in a sense and to a degree that we have refused so far to admit, much less face. The tragedy of race relations in the United States is that there is no American dilemma. White Americans are not torn and tortured by the conflict between their devotion to the American creed and their actual behavior. They are upset by the current state of race relations, to be sure. But what troubles them is not that justice is being denied, but their peace is being shattered and their business interrupted. Do you get that? Do I have to break that down? So, like 50 years ago, when white Americans were talking about how race relations had to be dealt with, they wasn't saying it because it was the denial of justice to black folks that were bothering them. It was their certain happy way of life was being disrupted and their businesses was being affected. Y'all niggas was messing with their way of life. That's what they were saying. Like, calm down, take your time, wait, chill. We're gonna get you what we want to get you, where we want to get you, how we wanted to get it to you. Not on your terms, on our terms. Let me enjoy my life as I'm created it for me to enjoy. To put it another way, there is no American dilemma because black people in this country form a colony, and it is not in the interest of the colonial power to liberate them. The colonial power being white America. Black people are legal citizens of the United States with, for the most part, the same legal rights as other citizens. Yet they stand as colonial subjects in relation to the white society. Thus, institutional racism has another name: colonialism. Obviously, the analogy is not perfect. One normally associates a colony with a land of people subjected to and physically separated from the mother country. This is not always the case, however. In South Africa and Rhodesia became Zimbabwe, I think. Yeah, Rhodesia. It was called Rhodesia then. This is not always the case, however. In South Africa and Rhodesia, black and white inhabitants, you know what? This is bothering me. This is bothering me. This is bothering me, guys. I gotta check to see. Rhodesia. HODSIA. Yeah, okay. Yeah, she became Zimbabwe. I think it was named Rhodesia because of Cecil B. Rhodes. He's the guy who the whole Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University is named after. That was his endowment that became the Rhodes Scholarship. You know, all that. Gotta know things, man. Gotta know these things. Like I say, I am a geek in my mind. I like to know things. I believe I'm supposed to learn something new every day. That's why I read the paper every day. That's why I just find out shit every day. I learn something new every day. I try to at least. So, yeah. Zimbabwe was once named Rhodesia. Rhodesia was named after this British multi-billion-dollar wealthy man back then who had a bunch of hands in a bunch of different things, diamonds, slaves, and all that, like all that. He named the African country full of black folks after himself. Supposedly he discovered all those black folks, you know. These crackers ain't never gonna stop till we hold their feet to the fire and hold them responsible, make sure they stop. This is not always the case. However, in South Africa and Rhodesia, black and white inhabit the same land, with blacks subordinated to whites just as in the English, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish colonies. It is the objective relationship which counts, not rhetoric, such as constitutions articulating equal rights or geography. The analogy is not perfect in another respect. Under classic colonialism, the colony is a source of cheaply produced raw material, usually agricultural or minerals, which the mother country then processes into finished goods and sells at high profit. Sometimes back to the colony itself. The black communities of the United States do not export anything except human labor. We were legal property. But is the differentiation more than a technicality? Essentially, the African colony is selling its labor. The product itself does not belong to the subject because the land is not theirs. At the same time, let us look at the black people of the South. Cultivating cotton at $3 for a 10-hour day, and from that buying cotton dresses and food and other goods from white manufacturers. Economists might wish to argue this point endlessly. The objective relationship stands. Black people in the United States have a colonial relationship to the larger society, a relationship characterized by institutional racism. That colonial status operates in three areas: political, economic, social, which we shall discuss one by one. Those are the three areas of society that matter: political, economic, social. And reading and voting will take care of all those three. If you don't have a job already, go get a job so you can get on the economic bandwagon. But we also need you to stay on the political and social bandwagon. Reading is fundamental. Reading is a social tool. It expounds your mind. It expands your mind to the point where you can literally be more sociable. It helps. It doesn't hinder. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you to read a book, guys. Come on. It doesn't hurt you to vote. It hurts you to not vote. Trump is an example of what happens when you don't go out and vote. Opposition to Obama is an example of what happens when you don't go out and vote. I care about things like that. Because that man right there is a great man, yo. Contrary to what you might believe in your clouded mind right now. That man is a great man. He is my brother's keeper, and I am his brother's keeper. We are all our brother's keepers, man. Believe that. Did you like that, bro? Did you like that? How I used to hold my brother's keeper thing? Did you like that one? My man, look at that. I know you like that, bro. I know you liked it. You know what I mean? If you get that joke, you truly black in America. You follow Barack like I follow Barack. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not on social media, but in this day and age, the real news outlets even report on what happens on social media because that's where this bloviating idiots in chief choose to communicate with his constituents. Can you even spell constituents, Trump? Please try. Please use spell check if you're going to try to tweet out constituents, just because I actually spell it. Oh, trust me, I know you're listening. That's why I'm doing this, because for the first time ever, we have a president who doesn't read. So I might as well read to him, tell you a bedtime story. The fuck out of here. That colonial status operates in three areas: political, economic, social, which we shall discuss one by one. Colonial subjects have their political decisions made for them by the colonial masters, and those decisions are handed down directly or through a process of indirect rule. Politically, decisions which affect black lives have always been made by white people, the white power structure. It's still being made by white people. Try to tell you, Black Lives Matter? You really want Black Lives to matter, read and vote. Trying to tell y'all, man. I'm not trying. Your setup, your structure, everything is great. It's great. But I think your message needs to be skewed in a little bit more towards the things that Dr. King fought and lost his life for than things that, say, Louis Farrakhan is espousing right now. I'm sorry, Brother Farrakhan. I'm sorry for that, but I truly believe that you're one of the few black men in the history of black men that I have no respect for, sir. I'm sorry. I hope I don't lose my hands in the hands of some. I don't lose my life at the hands of somebody else who has taken the Shahada and said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him. I hope I don't lose my life by some young black man who has taken that Shahada. Because as you know, just like I am, just like I do, that when I say Assalamu alaikum to another brother Muslim, I'm pretty much saying peace be upon you. It's a religion based on peace. It's a religion based on submission to the will of Allah. And for voicing my opinion, which is something that everyone living on American soil has the ability and the capability to be able to do freely and openly, which I'm exercising here. Please, do not let me lose my life for that. I don't want to be a martyr. I don't think I was meant to be a martyr. Maybe a gadfly, yes, but not a martyr. Martyrs don't live long, and I would love to live long. I'm trying to tell you, man. If God want to give me 125 years on top of all these cigarettes I'm putting in my body, if God wants to give me 125 years, I will take it, God. You know I will. I will live for 125 years. Maybe I'll see another black president. Maybe I'll see a female black president. Man, Henrietta Lacks will be glad to see a female black president. Miss Henrietta Lacks will be glad, will literally cry tears of joy in her grave to know that a black woman has ascended to the presidency of the United States of America. And before people start thinking Oprah don't want to be president. Oprah know what it means to be president. She don't want that. She don't want that headache. She's having too much fun not being president. I feel you on that. That's not a light undertaking. contrary to what this idiot believed it would be. That's a huge undertaking, you dummy. Politically, decisions which affect black lives have always been made by white people, the white power structure. There is some dislike for this phrase because it tends to ignore or oversimplify the fact that there are many centers of power, many different forces making decisions. Those who raise that objection points to the pluralistic characteristic of the body politics. They frequently overlook the fact that American pluralism quickly becomes a monolithic structure on issues of race. When faced with demands from black people, the multi-faction whites unite and present a common front. This is especially true when the black group increases in number. A large Negro community is politically both an asset and a liability. I look at this more as an asset. Contrary to what someone might get out of all this I'm doing, I am a glass half full kind of guy. And when it comes to black progress, I am absolutely a glass 3/4 of the way full, not even half full when it comes to black progress. I am that optimistic and I am that much believing in how much of an asset we are. We just got to get out of our own ways for us to see. That forest is thick with white racism. This is especially true when the black group increases in numbers. This is especially true when the black group increases in number. A large Negro population is politically both an asset and a liability. A large Negro populace will not only expect to influence the commitments and behaviors of a governor, but it also may expect to arouse the fears of many whites. The larger the Negro population, the greater the perceived threat in the eyes of whites, and thus the greater the resistance to broad civil rights laws. That quote that started with a large Negro population is politically both an asset and a liability is referenced from a book titled The Negro in American Politics, The Present. It's by James Q. Wilson. It was published in 1966, a year before Black Power was published. Again, the white groups tend to view their interests in a particularly unified, solidified way when confronted with blacks making demands which are seen as threatening to vested interests. Obama winning the presidency. Again, the white groups tend to view their interests in a particularly unified, solidified way when confronted with blacks making demands which are seen as threatening to vested interests. Obama did not have to make a demand. He won the presidency, fair and square. He smashed McCain. He smashed Romney. But for the sake of this, I'm sticking with the McCain win because that was the catalyst of it all. If Bush wouldn't have been so awful, Obama wouldn't have stood a chance. If Obama wouldn't have been so great, Trump wouldn't have bloviated and lied his way into the presidency. Point blank, period. And you can take that to the bank. The whites react in a unified group to protect interests they perceive to be theirs. Tea Party movement, Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin. like Paul Ryan, Eric Cantor, all y'all racist redneck pricks, especially you, Paul Ryan, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, all y'all, Rick Santorium. I ain't forget about you, Ricky, Slicker Ricky. I ain't forget about you either, bro. The whites react in a unified group to protect interests they perceive to be theirs. Interests possessed to the exclusions of those who, for varying reasons, are outside the group. Professor Robin M. Williams, Jr. has summed up the situation. In a very basic sense, race relations are the direct outgrowth of the long wave of European expansion, beginning with the discovery of America. Because of their more highly developed technology and economic and political organizations, the Europeans were able, by military force or by economic and political penetration, to secure control over colonies, territories, protectorates, and other possessions and spheres of influence around the world. In a way, the resulting so-called race relations has very little to do with race. Initially, it was an historic accident that the peoples encountered in the European expansion differed in shared physical characteristics of an obvious kind. But once the radical ideologies has been formed and widely disseminated, they constituted a powerful means of justifying political hegemony. That means level, political structures and levels. Constituted a powerful means of justifying political hegemony and economic control. In much the same way, present-day vested political and economic and social privileges and rights tend to be rationalized and defended by persons and groups who hold such prerogatives. Whenever a number of persons within a society have enjoyed for a considerable period of certain time opportunities for getting wealth, for exercising power and authority, and for successfully claiming prestige and social deference, there is a strong tendency for those people to feel that their benefits are theirs by right, white privilege. The advantages come to be thought of as normal, proper, customary, as sanctioned by time, precedents, and social consensus. Proposals to change the existing situations arouse reactions of moral indignation. Elaborate doctrines are developed to show the inevitability and rightness of the existing schemes of things. An established system of vested interest is a powerful thing. An established system of vested interest is a powerful thing. Perhaps especially when differences in power, wealth, and prestige coincide with relatively indelible symbols of collective membership, such as shared hereditary physical traits, a distinctive religion, or a persistently held culture. The holders of an advantaged position see themselves as a group and reinforce one another in their attitudes. Any qualms about the justice of the status quo seem to be diminished by the group character of the arrangement. Wow. But what about the official separation of power, the system of checks and balances? We are well aware that political power is supposedly divided at the national level between the president, Congress, and the courts. But somehow the war in Vietnam has proceeded without congressional approval. We are aware that constitutional niceties really they quickly become irrelevancies, divide power between the federal government and the states. But somehow the Supreme Court has found no difficulty in expanding the powers of Congress over interstate commerce. At the same time, we are told that the federal government is very limited in what it can do to stop whites from attacking and murdering civil rights workers. A group interest does exist, and it crosses all the supposed lines when necessary, thereby rendering them irrelevant. Furthermore, whites frequently see themselves as a monolithic group on racial issues and act accordingly. White power, white. They will always stick together. They will always stick together. Don't let them fool you with that. They will always stick together. Alright, I gotta stop here for a second. I gotta go get me a couple of tacos from the taco shop before they close out for the night. They're about to close in the next 45 minutes or so. So I gotta go get that. I've been running my mouth for like the last 6 hours or so, and a nigga hungry. I gotta get some water, some more water, and do that part. I remember where I stopped at. I'll be back. Don't go anywhere, okay?